guys, welcome to Learn Tech from Zero. Today we'll be covering further CCNA topic. If you are new to this channel, we offer free guides and lessons and labs to whoever interested in IT. So we can help you get started in IT completely free of charge. You can go to Learn Tech from Zero and you should be able to explore all in demand IT courses completely for free. So, for example, for IT foundations, we have CompTIA ITF Plus, Azure, CompTIA A Plus, etc. For networking, we have CCNA Network Plus. For cloud computing, we have AWS, everything. So, for cybersecurity, we have CompTIA Security Plus and other courses. So, all these you can access completely free of charge on Learn Tech from Zero. All right, let's start with today's topic, which is today we'll be covering 1.7, describe private IPv4 addressing. So, what is a private IPv4 address? A private IPv4 address is an IP address that is used inside private networks and is not routable on the public internet. So, in simple terms, all your devices at home, like your mobile phone, your laptop, your computers, um, any device that has access to internet, or any device that connects to Wi-Fi or physically connects to the internet using a copper cable, right? They have a IPv4 address so that devices know how to reach other devices using IPv4 address. So here, private IPv4 address means we have two types of addresses. One is private and one is public. So if you go on Google and if you search what's my IP address, right? I don't want to show you mine. So if you just search that on Google, you should see your public IP address. So one IP address, one public IP address represents your whole network. So for example, if we have to give you a very easy example, your home network is represented using one public IP address. So public IP address is assigned to your router, the one that your internet provider gave it to you, and the wire that's connected to the internet service provider, that port has an address which is the public IP address. And that router, what they do is, because there is a very limited, not very limited, but IPv4 address is about to finish. And when they first started, they didn't know that the internet would explode, like it will get that famous, or how the things will work out. So IPv4 is finishing. So for that reason, we have two different IPv addresses. One is private and one is and the other one is public. So that's why it saves IPv addresses, because your whole network is represented with one public IPv address, IPv4 address, and within your network you will be using IPv4 private addresses, which are not registered in the authority server. Let's say IANA. So what they do is they allocate IP addresses, etc. So your private IP addresses is not registered. The IP address that you have within your computer, the same IP address someone else can have it in a different network. So people can have same IPv for private addresses. They can be duplicated. One organization can use that same address, and the other organization can use the same address. So this is the range. So the IPv4 private addresses has three ranges, starting from 10.0.0.0, and that it finishes with 10.255.255.255. So what happens is, every octet, right, it represents 255 values, including zero, it becomes 256. So to just to remember, you need to remember the range for your CCNA exam. I don't want to go too much in details because the video is gonna get too long. So you need to know this range. Why it's 255 255, and this is something that I can explain you separately because this needs breakdown into. I need to break it down into binary and then binary to uh, decimal. So this is something that is going to take a very long time. So if you're confused, you can ask me a question, and I'm happy to help you. So this is the private IPv4 addresses range. So you can use any of those addresses from 10,000 to 10,255,255,255. So anything within this range. So you can use 10, let's say 10,111, 10,222, so up to 10,255, 255, 255. The same, so these are different type of classes. The reason we have different classes so that big companies, when they have a lot of devices, so they can use more IPv addresses. Most of your home network or small networks, they normally use a class C IPv address. So if you check um, your computer or your laptop or mobile phone, you will have a class C private IPv address, which basically the first three octets belongs to the network, and you can only use 254 addresses. So right now you can only, let's say at your home environment, you can only use maximum 200, you can maximum connect 254 devices to the router, or to the router. So the router can only assign or can only accept 254 devices. And if you have a class B address, the router can accept, what they can do is they can accept 255 times 255. These are the number of addresses a class B IPv address can offer. So 65,225 devices can connect with class B, and with class C, what all you have to do is just add another 255, and then hold on a second, 255 times 255 times 255. So these are the number of addresses that a class class A IPv4 address range can cover, and these are the number of devices that can connect to this class A IPv address range. So let's just you can go through everything on the website. So I'm just going to quickly give you an overview of everything. So class B, class SC, everything, you can just go through all of them. All right, let's see how devices use private IPv addresses. So on a router there is a feature called network address translation, NAT. So what it does is it converts your private IPv addresses to public IPv addresses so that you can communicate with other devices. And when someone else, when you get a reply, or when the traffic comes back to you, your router does is it changes the public IPv address to private IPv address, and then it basically detects where it needs to send the data. So it will check its routing table, and whoever has that IPv address, or whichever port has that IPv address, the router will send that information to that port, or over the Wi-Fi radio signal. Okay. Okay, let's see what's the misconceptions to avoid. Go through all of these. If you have any questions, just leave a comment. What we'll do is we'll just start with quiz now. You also need to remember RFC 1918. It defined the IPv, the three private ranges of IPv4 addresses. So this is the standard, or the rules, or that has been assigned or designed for usage of IPv4 addresses, and the purpose of network address translation for the router. Don't worry, it's not I know it's tricky, but don't worry about this. Just remember, anything to do with IPv4 addresses, it's RFC 1948, which defines those three private ranges is on how they should be used. Okay, which of the following IPv following is a private IPv4 address? So it will be 192.168.111 because it falls within this range. So 192.168.0.0, and so the address is 192.168.1.1. So we can use 192.168.1.1 to 255.255. So it's within this range. Okay, so this will be the answer, and this is not a private IPv address. This is Google's DNS server, most probably, and this is 172.1.5. It's not within those 172.1.6 is there, but it's 172.1.5, so it's not a private IPv4, and 111 is not a private IPv4. These are public IP addresses. These two are public IP addresses. So this should be the answer. What RFC defines private IPv4 address range? We have just told you, which is RFC 1918. You just need to remember this. This might come in the exam, but it's good to know if you want to grow in networking, and if you want to be a really good professional, then you should know those standards and how they're defined, etc. All right. So which private IPv range belongs to class A? So the class A starts with 10.0.0.0. We just saw that up there. So 10.0.0.0 to 10.255.255.255. The maximum it goes 10.1.1.1.1 to 10.255.255.255. So it's within this range. So this is the one. This is a class B IPv4 address, and this is a class C IPv4 address. So this is class A. Why are private IP addresses used in networks? So that to conserve public IP addresses, so that we are not using public IP addresses for local devices. Imagine if we start using public IPv addresses, these are the total number of addresses that we can use. 2 to the power of 32. 32 bits is an IPv4 address. So these are the number, I think it's 4 billion. So these are the number of addresses that we can use in total. So right now the internet has gone, like, it's extended so much that this address is not enough. That's why IPv6 is there. That's why within those addresses they have separated IPv4 private and public IP addresses, so that what happens is we are not using public IP addresses for every single device. Then that way the IP addresses would have run out long time ago. So this is why we have private IPv addresses, so that we are not using public IP addresses. We are only using one public IP address, which is on the routers, which is on the port, which is connected to the internet service provider, and within that network we are using a private IPv4 addresses to conserve public IP addresses. Right. Which private IP range is part of class B? This is going to be class B is 172.160.0.2. This is within the range, so this is the answer. Which device translate private IP addresses to public IP addresses for internet access? Which is going to be a router. The router, they have a feature called network address translation. It translates private to public, public to private. Switch, no, they don't translate, or they don't deal with IPv addresses. They only deal with MAC addresses. Hub is an older version of switches. And firewall with DHCP, they do deal with IPv addresses, but the firewall is there for monitoring IPv addresses. All right, so this is the answer. Can two different organizations use the same private IP range internally? Yes. Different companies can have the same private IP range, but they can't have the same public IP range. Public addresses are for communicating between different networks, between different locations. So yes, private IPVs can be reused in different networks. Which of the following address is not private? So this is within the private. This is within the private. This is within the private. If you check the table, you will find that this is within the private. This is not within the private. 203, you don't see anything starting with 203, so this is not within the private, so this is not the answer. This is the answer. Which subnet mask corresponds to private class C network? So subnet mask, they represent the network address. So in class C, again, if you don't know these, then it might sounds very tricky, so you're feel free to ask. But class C has 254 usable address, and it uses the last octet. So it has to be 0, and the first 3 represents the so sorry, I kind of skipped the answer, but let's go to the next. Let's move on to the next one, because I don't think I can go back to question 9 again. I'm so sorry. Okay, what happens if a private IP address is sent directly to the internet? The router will drop it, because routers are not designed to send private IP addresses out to the internet. They will only send private public IP addresses, so it will get dropped. So that's it. If I'm sorry if I was rushing too much and if it's a bit complicated for you, but if you have any questions, just feel free to ask, or you can go on Learn Tech from Zero and go through all these, and it should give you a really good understanding of IPv4 addressing. So thank you so much for your time, and I will see you next time.